Hey guys, welcome back to Prep Talk on Prepping in Progress. I got my note cards today. Today we're going to talk about a tale of two preppers and discuss some things that I've seen not just in our comment section, but on Facebook posts and forum groups. And let's get into it, shall we? Okay, so the title of this video is The Tale of Two Preppers, and we're going to get into that in a minute. The issue that I've been seeing on a lot of videos, a lot of different sites is, well, that's not biblical. That's not Christian. So whenever someone says something that is a hard choice or something that you might not like, the gut response that keeps coming back is, hey, that's not Christian. I thought you were a Christian. Hey, that's not biblical. And I got to thinking. I got to looking. And I want to throw out to you guys a couple of stories from the book about a couple of preppers and let you wrap your head around it today. First one comes from the Old Testament. Starts in Genesis 41. Young man, name's Joseph. Brothers treat him really poorly. Granted, he wasn't a joy to be around. And they sell him into slavery and fake his death. Well, after years of working his way up to a chief steward, then years in prison, he finds himself interpreting a dream for the Pharaoh. And the dream is, comes out, the interpretation, 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine. You need to find someone discerning and wise to manage your affairs, to prep for the incoming disaster. Pharaoh looks at him and goes, man, you're the wisest thing I've got. My advisors, my magicians couldn't figure this out. So you got the job, bud. And so for the next years, 7 years, he takes a fifth of all of the grains in the country and puts them in storehouses. And he gets ready for the coming, shall we say it, apocalypse. So what happens? 7 years go by, and then the famine starts. Now Joseph has prepped the granaries for the country. Not just for the country, but they have enough that they can feed surrounding nations who need help, or surrounding groups, tribe groups. So what does Joseph do? People start coming to the gates. Hey, I need food. The Egyptians start coming to the gates. Hey, I need food. He sells the food to the people. Now, when I say the people, I'm talking about Egyptians, his own people. He sells it to them. Okay? In fact, if you go and you actually go through your Bible and you find the exchanges that he makes, at first, he sells the grain for money. And he makes a cash profit for Pharaoh. But then the people run out of money. Okay. What does he say? He says, bring me your livestock. And he trades livestock that is probably dying because of no food, no grain, for grain. And this goes on until the country runs out of livestock. Okay. The next year, and it actually says it in the book, the next year, the people came to him for grain. And they said, buy us and our land. And he agrees. And at the end of the time, Pharaoh owned the whole land of Egypt. And Joseph turns around and makes a really good deal with the people. He says, you get to keep your land, but a fifth of all of your proceeds now belong to Pharaoh. So from that point on, while the current administration, and for however many years it lasted, the Egyptian people were giving Pharaoh 1/5 of their sheep, their goats, their grains, whatever the proceed of their agricultural income was, to Pharaoh. All right? So when someone says, well, that's not Christian, you need to just be giving your preps to the people who come to your gate and the people who want your help. Joseph sold it. He didn't give it away. Now, the one thing I'll give Joseph is when interpreting Pharaoh's dream, he was called to prepare not just for his immediate family and the 2 sons that were born to him during the 7 years of plenty. He was not called just to prep for Pharaoh's immediate family. He was called to prep for multiple people, but he also made a profit on it. Okay? So making a profit on your preps rather than giving them away is biblical. You could even say it's Christian, even though we're dealing with the Old Testament. And if you want to make the argument that, well, that's the Old Testament, that's not the New Testament, it gets a little harsher. So let's jump to the parable of the 10 virgins, shall we? Matthew 25, chapters 1 through 13. And I'll just give a brief synopsis of the story. Bridegroom's getting married. 10 virgins are supposed to accompany him on his way, light his way. So they get their oil lamps and they're waiting for the bridegroom. They've got them lit, they're good to go. Everything's up and running. And the book says the bridegroom tarried. Now, does that mean he was having a bachelor party? Does that mean he was engaged in arranging for the honeymoon? Who knows? But he tarried. He waited. He waited so long that the 10 virgins fell asleep. Okay. Round about midnight, the cry goes up, hey, the bridegroom's coming, the bridegroom's coming. They rouse themselves, they get up and running, they're ready to go. And 5 of these young ladies look at their oil lamps, and they're out of oil. Their lamps have gone out. Those are called the 5 foolish virgins. The 5 wise virgins thought to store, to prep extra oil. And they take their extra oil, they pour it into their lamps, and they're good to go. Now, I actually got the book here because I want to read you what happens next. Then all those virgins got up and trimmed their lamps, but the foolish ones said to the sensible ones, give us some of your oil, because our lamps are going out. And the sensible ones answered, no, there won't be enough for us and for you. Go instead to those who sell and buy oil for yourselves. And when they had gone to buy some, the groom arrived, and then those that were ready went in with him to the wedding banquet, and the doors were shut. So here we have a biblical story where 5 people prepped, 5 people had their gear, had their supplies ready to rock and roll, and 5 didn't. And when the 5 who didn't prep asked for supplies, the answer was no, because I won't have enough for me and for you. Hey guys, stop and think about this for a minute. That's not Christian. Actually, it is. The right to say no, the right to protect your family, to protect what you have, and to say no to someone else is biblical. At the end of the story, those who went and bought oil, they show up at the wedding feast. They're banging on the door. The bridegroom comes to the door and he says, "I'm sorry, I never knew you." And they're turned away. Yeah, we're called to be charitable, guys. Absolutely. We are called to give until it hurts. We are blessed that we may bless others. That is a tenet of our family. But I'm going to say that not at the expense of your own light going out. Not at the expense of your own light going out. So, I'm sorry, guys. For those of you who want to say, well, that's not Christian, well, that's not biblical. It is biblical to say no. It is biblical to protect your own light and to keep it from going out. So, yeah. I'm still going to say that's going to be a tough choice. It would be an extremely tough choice to turn away a friend, to turn away someone I knew. I couldn't turn away my mother. I couldn't turn away a lot of people. I'd be willing to take food out of my own mouth for the lady with 2 kids. And maybe I'm wrong, because if I'm taking food out of my own mouth, can I provide for my children without that energy? Am I allowing my light to go out? So for those of you who have been told, well, that's not Christian, well, that's not biblical, there's a daily ear nugget for you to consider and ponder. All right, y'all. Thanks for joining me for Prep Talk, and I'll get off the pulpit now. Later.